Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see on F1 2019, as always, and I've decided to do another 110% AI track challenge, and this is going to be at Germany because I have it tomorrow in my league race, and I thought this would actually be, I actually found this when I did this at Silverstone in France and stuff, found it to really transfer over when I did my league racing at Silverstone in terms of pace. The AI have proven to be very, very challenging, particularly tracks like Suzuka and what other tracks were there. France, as I just said, they were extremely challenging. So I decided around this one, I didn't think they would probably be as hard as it would be at those tracks. I did the one-shot quali, had a technical failure, started last, and you can see some prime examples that you need to be very, very decisive against this AI, because if you do not completely pull it down the inside, then you will completely just be destroyed by them. They just have no awareness whatsoever, and I had a few little attempts here because it's quite awkward, and I try and overtake them in as realistic and just fair way as possible as I can. But you can see we suffered damage quite a few times, and no, this is definitely not realistic unless you're probably Grosjean or something like that. But we eventually got round to doing a clean run, and judging by the pace I did, this is actually going to be pretty difficult from the back of the grid. So we've got 5 lights here, starting on the soft tyre, which the majority of the grid are, getting a decent start because I've actually turned off assisted starts now, and we're just going to let them go going through this first turn. No, don't really want to just be taking the mick and just overtaking half the grid, which we probably could do. Go down the inside here. They do brake very early when they're bunched up with each other, but just making sure we don't get any contact with anyone else. And we've made up 4 positions. Just we've been pushed wide by Giovinazzi, I think, in the Alfa Romeo, and he's really, really hustling you. It's quite dangerous being side by side because they will just completely just spin your rear off. But going down here into the hairpin, spotting the braking point pretty nicely, making sure you're fully alongside, but you can still see he's still trying to wrestle me round the outside. So we made up 6 positions and managed to go through with no damage whatsoever. But you can see the leaders have already started to get away, and what I was trying to say before was when I had a few attempts at this and I made it into like 5 laps into the race, the pace is actually quite good. I'd say it's definitely tougher than Silverstone. Silverstone was pretty easy as we go down the inside. That is a decisive move down the inside of Gasly there, and that's really what you need to be doing against this AI. But as I was saying, they are definitely tougher than Silverstone. Still, Silverstone, I'd probably say, is probably one of the easiest AI I can imagine. We're going to go down the inside of the Renault of Hulkenberg, and we get the move done going into turn 1 here. The AI again wants to always go side by side. We try and make a move. It actually leaves me a little bit of room. We have a bit of contact, so not exactly 100% fair, but we get the move done, and now we have a nice, clear track. But Raikkonen, the straight line speed is coming back at me really, really quickly, so I have to go a little bit defensive, and let's see if he outbrakes me around the outside. Then he actually does outbrake me around the outside, so fair play. But we get the move done into the hairpin, and now we've made up 10 positions on the first 2 laps here. But you can see again, the leaders are actually getting away quite a bit, so we really do have to get a move on through this because, yeah, compared to Silverstone, they are definitely a level above here, so I'm going to have to be driving very, very well. And as always, if you didn't see at the start of this video, I was using the stock setup. The only thing I ever change is just the front brake bias and just the differential, as you can see, the part that I can change on the screen. Apart from that, we're using 6 wings, all 6 suspension, everything on default completely here. So supposedly the AI are running on default itself. But moving up or onto the back of Nico Hülkenberg, I put out to the right there, and you're probably wondering why I do that, and you probably see me do that on a few occasions. When you're right behind the AI on the racing line, they will actually go quite defensive, whereas if you pull off the racing line, they won't go defensive, so they won't hold you up, because if they go defensive, normally they're very, very slow on the apex. So that's a little tip when you're doing some esport event qualifiers or just any weekly events. Try and not be directly behind them within the second of them on the racing line, because they will go just defensive and it will really hinder you for the next corner here. So we get the move done. We do a couple moves in that lap. They're very slow coming off that hairpin, I noticed. It seems to be they're particularly quick on some areas of the track, but others not so much. I think probably the last sector is probably the strongest sector, and mainly the first sector as well. Sector 2, they're not particularly great going through here. So going into the penultimate corner, behind Carlos Sainz, trying to get a good run off this and getting the DRS zone. We've got 3 DRS zones around this track, which is going to be very entertaining for my league race tomorrow. And it's very easy to get a warning if you just about avoid it. And again, you can see going, not going for a move, but that just stops the AI from being defensive, and that is really, really important when you're trying to get the perfect run for a weekly event. You can lose a good half a second if they defend and then just really slow you on the apex. Going a little bit aggressive actually going into this hairpin. Wasn't thinking of doing a move on Perez, but we get a nice clean move done once again, and now we're into P7. But you can see the leaders are still gone. We're not really gaining much time. We haven't even set the fastest lap yet, I don't think. So we have to get through these cars actually pretty quickly, and I put a little bit more fuel in because I think that's definitely beneficial around this track. Going through into this last sector now, we're probably not going to be close enough to do a move down the inside into this section, which is I kind of really like that corner when I get it right, but it's so hard to get right 99% of the time. Trying to get a good exit run onto the main straight here, not going to think about doing a move. And you can see again, not going on the racing line, because even at this distance, they will go defensive and then just go super slow on the apex, and that is a harsh reminder again of how easy, and that's a prime example. Now they're going defensive because I didn't pull out to the inside. That's an example, and look how much time I've actually lost because of that. Over 3 tenths or so because of that. And now again, it should be another pretty simple move down this main straight, although the racing point is very quick in a straight line. I don't think he's going to outbrake me on the inside. If anything, it's only when they're on the outside of you, that's when they actually outbrake you. But now we have got the 2 Red Bulls ahead of me, and then we've got the 2 Ferraris as we almost go into the back of Verstappen there, and that gave me a shock when I'm actually commentating on this. I didn't even remember that happened. That happened out of nowhere. So now we've been promoted to P5 behind Alexander Albon. My aim is to get him in this first sector, get in the DRS zone and just be efficient as you can. You can see definitely struggling through this corner. Just the embankment and just the camber of the corner, it's very easy to lock up, and you can just lose so much time. So we decided to go into the pits. We're actually going to go for a little bit of an undercut here, spotting the braking point pretty nicely, going to the pit lane. And the pit stop time is a bit longer around this track. It's about 2.9 seconds. And we're going to go on to the medium tyre here. So get the green light. Pretty nice stop, pretty slick going through there. Most people haven't pitted, or pretty much everyone hasn't pitted yet. It's only Verstappen behind me who's now out of the race. And now we're going to push as hard as we can and try and get out ahead of the Red Bull at the very least, because these tyres don't really go off too much towards the end of this race. So I should be able to push pretty hard from now and then make some inroads into those 2 Ferraris and my teammate. And I have to say, and you'll be able to see here, it's definitely not easy because their pace is very, very good. They're very consistent. And yeah, I was actually quite surprised actually how good they were. And I probably will do a redo of France that I did recently, but I'll actually put on the Serpent itself, and then you'll be able to see how much of a difference that actually makes, which will probably be around, I'd say about half a second or more per lap, which will definitely make it a lot easier than it was before. But going back to this, you can see pushing quite nicely now, got a nice clear track, taking it nicely on that occasion. You really want to elect for second gear for that extra rotation had to come in, but it's a very, very tricky corner, but it can just gain you a ton of time. And then coming across the line, I think a few people have pitted now. I don't know if anyone in the lead has, and I don't think that is my second warning of this race now. So that is my last chance. If I do another one, I'm going to get a 3-second penalty. I need to get Kubica down straight, but thankfully we do have the DRS here, so putting it up into overtake, and then you want to conserve the ERS as much as you can. So once we're alongside him, we're going to put it down pretty quickly, putting it into lean as well, just to save a bit of fuel and just some good temps as well. That corner there, you don't need to be 100% in the apex. It's very, very weird. You can go in deep and then just cut back. It leaves yourself a little bit exposed on the entry, but that corner's kind of weird. You don't need to be hitting the perfect racing line going through here, but that corner there, you want to be going almost flat out as much as you can. And towards the end of this race, we'll be talking about exactly where I'm looking to brake and approach each of these corners. But again, doing another lockup into that one, and that is definitely by far the trickiest corner on the track for me, but definitely one of the most important as well. Let's see where I'm going to come out in relation to the guys up ahead, as we do set the quickest up of the race, but we did have an invalidation. We're going to have to be careful going through this first corner now, and we've actually come out just behind Leclerc, so we've gained quite a bit on Albon, so the undercut has definitely worked, but Vettel has still got a pretty good lead on what I have got now, so we're going to put it into overtake. But at this stage, I knew we probably won't go overtake him, so I'm going to put back down to no ERS and just being very efficient with the ERS and fuel usage, which I think a lot of people, sometimes people say I save too much, but I don't think it's a bad thing. If you can keep up the pace and keep with someone, and you know you're going to stay in that DRS zone and get close to them, then why wouldn't you save it? It's better to have more in your armory than having nothing at all. But going through this corner now, going to the last sector, we get a little bit of dirty air from the two cars ahead of me. But you can see Vettel has got quite a big lead. So if I want to win this race against this AI, I'm going to have to get a move on and get past these guys. Plus, they have got fresher tyres than me as well. So coming off this corner, let's see, they always get such a good exit on the acceleration. That is the main thing I've noticed when racing against these. They definitely seem, I don't think it's equal in terms of power output, let's just say that. Because they're wanting to go side by side going through this first sector, and I'm going to try and get at least one of them down this main straight. So putting up into Rich, then into overtake, use the maximum power deployment, and we should be able to get my teammate, then Leclerc. We're going to go down the inside of Leclerc, or spotting the braking point, going a little bit deep, making a tiny bit of contact, but we get the move done. We're into a net P2. It's only Magnussen who hasn't pitted yet, but not my teammate, but Vettel has already dispatched of him. So now we're going to have to get a move on, and now we're going to be talking about the next lap of exactly what I'm looking for when I am driving around this track, because now I'm going to have to push, but not too much, because I can't afford to get a warning, and this track is very easy. I think most people, especially in league racing, normally accumulate at least one penalty around here. That's pretty much almost a guarantee, but Magnussen is still staying out because he started on the medium tyre. Everyone else is pitted, so he's going for quite a long run here. So going into this one, we'll do it the next lap actually, because we're going to have to actually overtake him, which we should be able to do pretty easily going down this main straight. This is a very difficult corner to get an exit off. It's again one of those corners that I call a slingshot, where you have to go slow in, fast out, and get the move done, and we'll go quickly put it down to no ERS, or high and no ERS. I see so many people change it just before they brake. They decide to put everything down, and honestly, I don't think you're really going to be gaining that much, or really anything at all, and a long term throughout the race where you're going to need to be consistently using it each lap. You could be down an extra 20% at the end of a race, and that can make a huge difference in terms of your lap time. And if you have to defend from someone, or if you really want to get in a certain window of someone ahead of you, it can make a really big difference. So we're going to come across into the penultimate corner, and now we're going to talk about what I'm looking for when doing a lap itself. So coming off this last corner now, going up into a hot lap and overtake, and then going up into 7th gear, I want to be looking just after the 100 meter board. In 6th gear, go down into that, and then just try and be as aggressive as you can on the power. This 100 meter board, that's where you're braking 2nd gear for extra bite into the corner, then short shifting up through the gears and get a much better exit. It's better to compromise your entry and get a much faster exit, because that momentum will carry you down this very long straight. Up all the way, we're using 8th gear this time, 100 meter board. Just before that, again, first gear at the end, just an extra rotation going into there, and then going up through the gears pretty slowly. Don't put it into hot lap until the wheel spin has stopped and you get some good traction. This one here, about the 50-meter board, if I can see that. Second gear sometimes, but ideally third. Try and keep it flat out. Just be as committed as you can to the throttle. Going up into 7th. As the green part of the track finishes, that is you into 6th gear. And this one here, as a black box goes out of view on the right-hand side, that's your turning in point. Second gear, extra bite, and then short shifting to minimize the wheel spin. This one's quite a weird corner, middle of the track. That's when going 4th gear. Keep it in 4th gear for here. Try not to run out too much on the exit. And that is a lap. A very, very consistent lap. But we've still got some time to find, and we have to take some risks now because 5 laps of this race to go. He's still got a pretty good lead. And ERS is diminished very, very quickly. And we're starting to actually come under some pressure from Charles Leclerc, who I will, if you haven't seen this on Twitter, I will be racing this weekend on the live stream on Saturday night, 8 p.m. But now we're going to have to defend from him in the game. And so if he tries to go around the outside of me like Kimi Räikkönen did at the start of this stint, but we managed to maintain our position. And you can see there, just the AI just seemed to be very, very poor coming off that corner. So this is not helping me in my objective and trying to win this race. But I might have to be doing that against the real Charles Leclerc this Saturday. So make sure you tune in for that. I really, really can't wait to do that. And it is round this track as well, which I have tomorrow in a league race, and I have it again on Saturday. Both of these will be live streamed, both of them at 8 p.m. actually on those days. So make sure you tune in because it will be very, very good. I hope, fingers crossed at least. But coming across the line, let's see what the gap is now. I think we're gaining only about a couple of tenths a lap, although the last lap we did have to defend a little bit. So it's crucial now that I get a very good exit coming off this one. That corner, I did say the corner in the last sector was hard, but I'd say that is probably equally as hard. It just feels like if you just brake a meter too late, you're just going deep. Too early, it just stops dead. There is no perfect braking. It feels a really big lack of grip around this track, in my opinion. Always first gear through in that hairpin. He gets close on the entry, but you can see once again they just have an absolutely shocking exit, and I think that is just down to the power output that they have completely. And I think I'll do a video one day jumping on board and cockpit in the AI and see how much of the time they're actually running hot lap or something like that, because I think that will be pretty interesting. But going in to the stadium section, managing to hook this up pretty nicely now, actually starting to get some consistency going through into that corner, going into the penultimate one, 4th gear. Sometimes you can short shift on the exit if you wish, and we're definitely getting closer, but we don't have that much ERS to play with, so we have to take some risks. And we're almost getting our 3rd warning, and I would have had to have restarted it if I got a warning there. You can see going in deep again, it's so tricky, that corner. You just cannot get the perfect braking point for there. But we have to keep using our ERS as much as we can because we can't afford to relax. Otherwise, the Ferrari will just absolutely just steamroll me in a straight line. Braking very, very late, but making sure we get a pretty good exit. And although we went in deep, you can normally recover it pretty well on the exit. So I don't think we've lost too much time. And now we should just about be getting into the window. But my tyres are starting to feel like they're actually going off ever so slightly, so I'm gonna have to get in this DRS zone as quick as I can. And although I had a very good race at France and Suzuka and stuff as well, I'm definitely having to work pretty hard with this default setup around here. I wouldn't say I'm driving amazingly, but I would say I'm driving pretty well at this point here, because see, just off that last corner they just seem to get an unreal exit going off there. So going into turn 1, we're gonna have to really push it once again, just about staying on track and getting a good exit going down the straight. You can see my fuel and ERS are really starting to get depleted now, so I have to get in the DRS zone ideally on the next lap at the very least, because then I could actually save some and then hopefully just do a relatively easy pass going down to no threat this time going down the main straight. And my teammate Bottas and the Red Bull of Albon are absolutely, no, they're battling going into the hairpin, but they've just been absolutely dropped here. Seems a Ferrari straight line speed is just very, very OP around this one. Coming into the middle sector, they seem to get a very good launch coming off this corner as well. But in the last sector, I do seem to gain still a little bit of time. I like this corner. This corner is very, very demanding, but very satisfying when you get it right. And you can see making it up quite a bit of time under the brakes, which I think is the main area where you really gain time on the AI in general. Is just really under braking, trying to get a good exit, and we actually do get in the DRS zone now. So now leaving it into medium, and then you can see my fuel is actually going into the red, so I have to save some fuel now. But I need to be closer in this. This is not close enough, and I've got Leclerc really closing into me as well. So trying to get a good exit coming onto straight, but I should be relatively safe because I do have the DRS, so I need to get as close as I can because this is not close enough for the last lap, and I'm going to have to save some fuel. But you can see we are gaining an absolute ton of time on the straight line speed going into here, and you'll be able to see coming off this corner as well, they are just very, very poor in terms of power. And I'm hardly putting in any power, and the Leclerc has just been absolutely dropped on the exit there. So I'm going to use this time to just try and save as much fuel as I can. Just about gone into the green again, and then literally just run no ERS and lean through this entire last sector, and just try and be as close as I can because I was quite far going back onto the main straight, and I was still almost in a position to overtake him. So I'm a little bit closer on this occasion here, so I really need to get a good exit going through turn 1. But as we go a little bit wide, going through there, a little bit of dirty air, going onto the DRS, and now this is the start of the last lap, going through into turn 1, not taking too much of a risk, and we're definitely closer than we were last time. But like we saw in France, sometimes they save their ERS going down this main straight, and we get a pretty decent exit, probably the best exit I could have got coming off this corner. Now we're in the DRS. Let's see, we're quite far behind if I can gain any time whatsoever, and we are closing very, very quickly. He does go defensive, but we just pick the inside. He tries to outbrake around the outside, going in a little bit deep once again, like I did in his teammate. And coming off this corner, you could just, yeah, they've just been absolutely dropped coming off this corner. So unless I completely just crash off or Meteor just hits the track, then it should be a pretty good win. But there are still a risk that I will get a time penalty because I wouldn't put it past me to bottle it going through into this last sector. But coming in to the last few corners of this race now, that was actually a very, very demanding and pretty tough race, and I really enjoyed that, actually, having to really push. Kind of felt like I was actually in a real league race, trying to catch someone like the leader like I did last week. But coming across the line, we win the German Grand Prix from last place against the 110 AI, and I would certainly say they are definitely not as challenging as France and Suzuka, that's for sure, but way more challenging than Silverstone. And no, it definitely took quite a bit of effort, and I really, really enjoyed that race. In fact, thank you so much for supporting my channel as always. I hope you enjoyed that one. We'll be live streaming a league race tomorrow night at 8 PM at this very track in this very car, and also on Saturday again at this track, racing against the real Charles Leclerc. Cannot wait for that. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.